Okay, Chris, we have to do our obligatory and in no way insincere apology video exhale. Here we go. Okay.
The Rees Company.
All right, I'm Steve Rees, the Bull of American Broadcasting, alongside the great Chris Morganti. How are you, Chris?
I'm good.
Chris, I'm afraid we may owe someone an apology.
That's news to me.
Well, I think you'll see my logic here. This person is Ralph Williams, Pittsburgh's forgotten son. Now, if that name doesn't ring a bell, I understand. We do have plenty of Ralph Williams content and analysis on this channel. If you haven't yet, go check it out. He's been a fascination of ours for quite some time. The kind of guy you would root for in life if he wasn't such a colossal fish sandwich. Well, we're excited for Ralph because his dream of being a player in Pittsburgh media, it's finally become reality. An overdue victory for Pittsburgh's forgotten son. In fact, he's forgotten no more. He's now the host of The Sports Corner on something called Beaver County Radio. Now, of course, he has to pony up for the airtime and then hope to sell enough advertising on his own to cover the cost. And we discussed how that was going for him on a recent episode. But no matter, Chris, he gets to be in a real live radio studio talking sports. And the Sports Corner debuted last week on Beaver County Radio. And his lineup for this first outing, on the phone he had two men, his co-host, Smokin' Jim Frazier, and Luther Dupree. Luther has a show called The Boxing Authorities. He has a co-host on that show called Claudio Ralzano, and Claudio was Ralph's in-studio guest. Now, if you're not following these names and these details...
I am not.
Okay, don't worry about it. And for you folks at home or wherever you are, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Because lucky for us, Beaver County Radio has a live video stream for all of their shows. So we can take a look at Ralph's first night on the public airwaves as he throws it to Claudio to tell the folks about his boxing program. Let's see.
Guys, Claudio, start with you. Where can everyone watch the Boxing Authorities?
You can check us out on an app called Channel Box, which goes all over the world. We get emails from Italy, Norway, Germany.
What's going on?
All across the United States, but
What's happening?
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Hey, this is going to end up being an edit if you don't sit down. Jim, it's okay. That was the point of the clip. So
You let that go too long, Steve, and our audience is also turning off.
Well, because our monitor was on a different screen when the incident occurred. But here's the deal. The whole point of showing this clip was to show the major screw-up that occurred on Ralph's debut appearance. And it actually fooled Jim into getting up and trying to adjust our equipment so that we could actually hear Ralph's guest talk. No. Ralph's guest, his microphone was not on.
At all?
At all.
Oh, it sounded like they were at the end of the show. I thought something had gone wrong, but it just wasn't on at all.
It wasn't on at all. And it's important to note that, as we saw, Ralph is wearing headphones. Now, for years, Chris...
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't
Is he
see
not?
I don't see him wearing headphones.
Oh, he's not wearing headphones. Never mind. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not going to blame this on Ralph then. I'm going to blame this on Claudio because he claims to be a media guy. He does a show called The Boxing Authorities. He's not an authority on studio audio, apparently, because if you can't hear your own voice in your cans, it's not going out.
Well, maybe he did hear it in his cans, so we don't know that he didn't. We've seen enough here to know that these type of things can happen. That wasn't a shot at anyone.
But on
these
the old
kind of
show,
things happen sometimes.
On the old show, you and I used to wear headphones.
Yes.
And that was so that we could hear everything that was going out to the audience. And if somebody's microphone wasn't on, we would know immediately because we'd hear them talking. Yeah, they're in the room with us.
That is how it usually works.
Yes, that is pretty standard in this business.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take somebody more than 2 minutes in this business to know that if you can't hear somebody or you can't hear yourself, that person's microphone is either not on or malfunctioning.
I would say they share the blame because Ralph should be. Is it your first show? You should have a handle on that sort of thing.
And he should be wearing headphones.
You should be expecting something to not quite be right.
Maybe Beaver County Radio has only one set of headphones.
That's true.
And that's why the other two guests were on the phone. I don't know, but it's unfortunate. Eventually, the engineer did catch on, and Claudio's mic was off for the first half of the sports corner.
I'm sorry, there was an engineer? All right, so there's 3 people at fault here.
Well, someone had to hit the ads, Chris, and by ads, I mean all the promos for the other shows on Beaver County Radio.
I gotcha, yeah.
So Ralph didn't seem to be bothered by this when he recapped his week on the latest episode of his YouTube program,
So wait,
The Way I See It, with Ralph Williams. Yeah, Chris?
so half the show, he's talking to this guy, and you're not hearing the other half of the conversation.
No,
Oh, that's horrendous. Did he take calls?
they do.
And nobody called in
Somebody called in, but
to give him the 511 or whatever it is?
no, nobody called it.
411? I don't know.
Nobody called to tip anybody off on this. So let's hear a few seconds of Ralph. I mean, Ralph, he seems to think that the week went pretty well. Well, except for perhaps one thing. Let's hear how Ralph sums up.
Let me guess. Did it involve a restaurant? The thing that did not go correctly.
No.
Oh.
No. Surprisingly.
Had a great time this week. Didn't do too bad other than the fact that my father passed away.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into our
things
key
are going
topics
pretty well
tonight.
over here,
One of them
but if
tonight
I'm
is-
honest, there was one speed bump.
What did he say? I didn't hear it.
Of all the times for Ralph to be a glass half full kind of guy, it's when his father dies.
His own father died?
Yes. But the week
And he
went
said
pretty
he's
well
having
for
a
him.
good week?
Great week.
What a dick.
Ralph's week is ruined when a food truck serves him an unsatisfactory portion of macaroni.
You've got to be kidding me.
We'd offer our condolences, but it's not like some vegan sat there and criticized what he cooks at his barbecue. So I think Ralph is all right.
Jim, can you back it up a few seconds? I need to hear this. I didn't hear it the first time.
Let's hear
I'm
that
almost
again.
incredulous. That's good.
Yeah, right there.
His book is there, so go there and get his book. All right. So it's my life story this week. Had a great time this week. Didn't do too bad other than the fact that my father passed away. All right.
I mean, do you think maybe he just hates his dad?
Well, there's definitely it's definitely a strained relationship,
Okay.
and perhaps we'll dive into that on another episode. He said some additional things,
Okay.
but he was upset. He was upset about this, but his outrage wasn't coming from a place of grief. He was angry that his father's wife didn't inform him that his father had passed.
Yeah.
The man was buried for weeks before Ralph found out he even died.
Okay.
And Ralph thinks that was kept from him. That information was kept from him in an attempt to cut him out of his inheritance.
Well, if you think he's upset now, wait till he sees the catering at the funeral.
Oh boy!
He's going to have a lot to say about that.
Now, before we watch the next clip, can we go full screen on Ralph? I just want to point something out. What we're watching is The Way I See It with Ralph Williams, 6/19/23.
Nice.
Okay, back to your lovely co-hosts. Now, on a recent episode of the Rees Company, which we're going to link below, we discussed Ralph's difficulty in lining up his preferred sponsor for the Sports Corner.
Oh, Permani Brothers? Or
Permani Brothers, yeah. The venerable Pittsburgh sandwich and sports bar chain. Well, Ralph was unsuccessful in convincing him to buy a spot on his new show.
Yeah.
And he was not best pleased about this. And he made some frankly actionable, as you put it, allegations as he theorized about other ways Permani Brothers may cut corners. He called them cheap. He said they're not willing to do anything to help the little guy. And it came off as Ralph being his usual entitled self.
Well, he implied that they'd be cutting corners in the hygiene of the
sanitation.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said his advertising rate was a pittance. Ralph claimed one seating at a Permani Brothers location of 20 people who heard about the place on the Sports Corner, would more than pay for what he was asking to place an ad during his upstart radio show. Now, Chris, you did some math on this. And you came up with a ballpark figure of what his advertising rate for his program might be based on the information he provided. You estimated it would be around $400 a show.
Yeah, based on what he was saying.
Or $1,600 a month. Well, we're going to see a little more in a moment of the way I see it from this past week, or the way I see it, where Ralph made public more details regarding his proposal to Primanti Brothers. And perhaps you and I were a little too hard on him for lashing out against the restaurant's promotions department. Again, you figured $1,600 a month.
Hold on. Is this what we're apologizing for?
Possibly. I'm considering it. But let's.
All right.
Even though it's still there. I have a show on Beaver County Radio called Sports Corner. I'm always looking for advertising sponsors. Okay. And you're probably saying to me, well, Ralph, why are you on here saying something about this? Because you know why? I put out 100 emails in the last 3 days. I got not a one response back. Not a one. I have a company in Primanti Brothers who acted like my $800 a year for advertising was going to cost them $1 million.
Okay, so clearly I was taking what I thought to be his weekly thing.
Right.
And it's for a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he said it would cover this much,
No.
I
Chris,
thought that was per show, but he's saying that's for an annual subscription.
yes.
Okay.
$800 a year, that's half your monthly estimate, Chris.
Right.
That's what Ralph was asking for a full year of spots on the Sports Corner. So maybe Ralph does have a point about Primanti Brothers being cheap weasels.
All right. I'll let you finish, and then I have an idea. So
Okay. I mean, I still think it was a bit over the top for him to call for a boycott, but his basic stance is justified. And for us having said otherwise, I would like to apologize.
So, okay, now we get down to it. We're apologizing for. We think he was right about the Primanti Brothers?
Not wanting to pay less than $20 a show to advertise on his program.
All right, is that what it works
If that's
out
the
to?
math you're doing right now?
$16.
$16, yeah.
Yeah. Now, given that it's $16 a show, I can scratch up $8. You want to throw in the other 8? We can sponsor his show one day.
I think that's a worthy goal to have.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let's
yeah.
chip in $8 and make that happen.
Yeah.
We'll have to record a commercial, of course.
So look, Ralph, we apologize.
Yeah, sure.
Although, if anything, we were just giving Ralph more credit than he'd earned.
Sure.
I mean, who would have thought that his advertising rates would be so insanely low? And he also gave us bad information about the number of patrons it would take to cover the cost. Unless they're paying $1 a sandwich, his math was way off. And as a result, so was yours, Chris. So if anything, Ralph needs to share some of the blame here.
Yeah, I calculated the number that he was getting at, but I just didn't realize it was for a whole year. I mean, is that how they normally sell advertising?
No.
I wouldn't think so.
Right.
So maybe it's his fault that, offer somebody a month if they're not going for a year.
Right.
You know? Like what? I don't. Who
Right.
knows?
And, really, Chris, if we're guilty of anything, it's trusting this chap's multiplication skills.
That's true. So now he's sent out 100 emails, got no response.
Yeah.
So now he's broken down. So now if we say, look, we got $20, one show, he's bound to just take it.
Right.
And then at least he can say as a sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we can conclude that if we're guilty of anything, it's we gave him more credit than he deserved. Our apology shouldn't be to Ralph. It should be to our audience for figuring that Ralph had any kind of handle on any numbers. And as I've said before, you know what happens when you figure? You eat a fig with midge-ure.
Ooh.
Chris?
Now, when we do this commercial, do we want to do a real one, or do we want to do it for The Way We See It, featuring Steve Rees and Chris Morganti?
Oh, I don't know. That's something to figure out, Chris.
The sports. What's the synonym for corner? All right. Are we wrapping this one up?
Yeah. I think we're done. Ask you, baby.
Oskiwala
Tigers.
Tigers.
Idem Raw, we did it, Seth.